You don't remember when it began, only that the first time someone looked at you and did not flinch, something inside you begged them to never stop. It wasn't lust, not really. It was the tremor beneath the skin, the flicker in the eyes as if for a moment you were real, as if the mask you wore cracked just enough for someone to glimpse the forgotten face beneath. But they didn't see you, not truly. They saw the reflection they wanted, and you let them. You performed the ache. You wore the hunger like perfume. You became desirable only by hiding the part of you that was starving. And so every time you reached for intimacy, you weren't reaching for pleasure, you were reaching for proof. Proof that you exist, that someone can see past the flesh, into the memory that has no name. But what if no one ever will? What if she only ever kissed the mirror? And what if you, all along, were never chasing her, but chasing the ghost of the one who didn't see you? You thought you desired bodies, but what you wanted was to be recognized by the very shadow you feared becoming. You always believed it was lust, the pulse, the heat, the reach. But what if it wasn't? What if it was the ache of not being seen, dressed in the only language your body remembered how to speak? You touched skin not because you wanted to conquer it, but because you hoped it would remember you. You stared into eyes not because they were beautiful, but because you prayed they might open a door. The truth is, you were never seducing her. You were pleading with the mirror. Touch me, recognize me, call my name that I forgot. But mirrors do not answer, and she was only ever glass-shaped like a woman. She called you desirable, and you smiled, but the part of you that needed to be known remained untouched. The moment passed, the heat faded, and all that was left was a deeper cold. You had given everything, your strength, your hunger, your worship, but she had never seen you. Only the role, only the outline, only the man you forced yourself to become so she would not run. And you knew it, even as you reached for her again. You knew that your performance had been rewarded, not your truth, but you played the part anyway. Because being touched, even falsely, still hurts less than being invisible. There's a silence that lives beneath your desire, a silence older than your voice. It began the day you realized no one could read your soul through your skin. It's the silence of the boy who wanted to cry but was handed a sword. The silence of the man who laughs at the joke even when it slices through him. You became charming because silence is unbearable. You became sexual because absence is too loud. But every night, when the lights are gone and the touch fades, the mirror returns, and it never remembers your name. You try to forget. You drown yourself in conquest. You confuse quantity with recognition. But the more you take, the more you vanish. Because lust, in its rawest form, is not about bodies. It's about resurrection. You wanted someone to find the corpse inside you and call it holy, to lift your shame and whisper that even your brokenness is worthy. But she never said that. She kissed your strength, not your scars. She wanted the myth, not the man. And you, hungry for love, became the very illusion that devoured you. There's a paradox in you. The more you want to be seen, the more you hide. You long for someone to touch your soul, but you armor it in sarcasm, in seduction, in stone. You think if you show too much, they'll leave, so you give just enough to be wanted, never enough to be known. But this is not connection. This is a performance, and the applause always dies. Sometimes, in the middle of the act, you catch a glimpse of yourself. Not in her eyes, they are watching the script, but in the crack between gestures, in the way your hand shakes after she moans, in the second you turn away so she won't see the hunger behind your stare. That's when the mirror speaks, not in words, in ache, in that old ache that says you are not here, You are not here because you have not shown up. You are not here because you buried your soul beneath the need to be wanted. But she is not to blame. She is not cruel. She is blind, just like you. She is looking for something too. Maybe you were never lovers, just two haunted children trying to resurrect the gaze that abandoned them. Maybe you both dressed your wounds in pleasure and called it love. But deep down, you knew. You knew when the silence stayed after the climax. When your name on her lips sounded like a stranger's. When you touched her, and your fingers felt like someone else's. You knew, but it was easier to pretend. They told you lust was a sin. But they never told you that loneliness could wear red lips and warm thighs. They never told you that the deepest hunger of a man is not for sex, but for reflection. You wanted her to hold your truth in her gaze, not her body. You wanted her to see the chaos in you and not turn away. But that is not how the game is played. So you painted your face. You hardened your jaw. You became desirable, digestible, dominant. You forgot your face. The mirror forgot it too. There is a part of you that remembers. It doesn't speak in words. It speaks in dreams. The one where you scream and no sound comes out. The one where you are naked in a crowd but no one looks. The one where you chase someone endlessly and they always vanish. These are not dreams. They are messages. They are the soul's protest against performance. They are the lost face knocking on the mirror. But you wake up, you wash them away, you return to the mask. She touches you again. Her lips are soft. Her breath is sweet. And still you are not home. You are not in your body. You are watching it from afar, hoping this time the illusion will be enough. Hoping this time the mirror will see, but it doesn't. It shatters again. You wake up hollow again. And the ache you keep calling lust whispers, it was never about her. It was never about the body. It was never about desire. It was about being witnessed. It was about the child in you who looked up one day and realized that love had eyes but not for him. It was about the shadow you buried when they told you men are not supposed to feel. It was about the wound that learned to dance, to flirt, to conquer just to be allowed in the room. But the wound is not healed by conquest. It is only deepened, and so you return, again and again, to women who perform affection, to mirrors that reflect only what you pretend to be. You hunger not for sex, but for a gaze that sees the unspeakable in you and does not flinch. A gaze that remembers your name even when you forget it. A gaze that says, I see the shadow in you, and I do not turn away. But you have never found it, because you are still hiding, you are still acting, you are still chasing reflections. The mirror forgot your face because you forgot it first. And now you ask, will anyone ever see me? The real question is, will you ever show them? You chase what wounds you because it carries the scent of something older than love. The mother's eye you never escaped. She hurt you, not with fists, with silence, with that flicker in her gaze, the one that looked through you instead of at you. And still, you wanted her more, not despite the ache, but because of it. She reminded you of something, not someone, not her, but something buried so deep in your bones, you mistake it for desire. But it is not desire, it is recognition. You've been here before, you've known this ache before. The body is new, the pattern is not. She wounds you with the same rhythm that raised you, and that rhythm, though cruel, is familiar. And what is more seductive than what we already know? You say she's different, that this time is real, but your shadow knows better. It sees the shape of her absence before she even leaves. It hears the echo in her words before she speaks. You are drawn to her not because she loves you, but because she doesn't. or not in the way that counts. You are drawn to the way she withdraws, to the way her touch is always a little too late, to the way her attention always belongs to something else, someone else, somewhere else. And your hunger wraps itself around this distance like a flame around air. It is not love, it is memory. The wound has eyes, and it watches you. Every time you choose her, the wound watches. Every time you wait for a text that doesn't come, the wound smiles. Every time you lower your standards just to be held, the wound applauds. You think you are chasing her, but you are feeding it. You are feeding the oldest part of you, the boy who learned that love must be earned, that affection is a prize, that presence is a reward for performance. You do not want her love. You want her to finally choose you without you needing to beg. But she doesn't. She never does. And still, you return, because something inside you believes that if she, the one who mirrors the wound, finally sees you, finally stays, finally reaches for you instead of pulling away, then the wound will close. Then the ghost will sleep. But the truth is cruel, she was never meant to stay. She is the actor hired by your shadow. Her role is not to heal you, it is to reenact the scene. And you are still playing the child, still hoping that this time the mother will not look away. You lie to yourself in subtle ways. You say you're just attracted to independent women, that you like the thrill of the chase, that you respect her space. But beneath these noble scripts lies the truth you are afraid of being seen. Not the performance, not the curated self, but the raw, hungry, trembling you. And women like her, emotionally unavailable, cold, enigmatic, are safe in a way you don't want to admit, because they'll never truly look at you, which means you never have to be truly seen. The wound is clever. It does not scream. It whispers. It selects lovers with surgical precision, the ones that echo your past, the ones that make you feel small, then grateful, the ones that abandon you and call it space, the ones who say you're too intense, the ones who say you're imagining things, the ones who press their lips to your skin but keep their soul a continent away. These are the ones you fall for, not by accident, but because your nervous system mistakes the ache for home. You've mistaken alertness for attraction. When she texts you back after days, your heart races and you call it passion. When she withdraws after intimacy, you panic and you call it depth. But this isn't love. It's addiction, a trauma bond. Your wound is not just watching, it is driving. And until you see that, you will keep calling pain chemistry and abandonment mystery. You'll keep romanticizing the ones who hurt you because you think the ache is proof of meaning. You'll keep loving in the language of loss. She doesn't know she's playing a role. Most of them don't. They are haunted too. She is not your villain. She is your mirror. She is also repeating something, reenacting someone. Maybe she, too, is trying to find the father who vanished or the boy who stopped seeing her. Maybe her coldness is her shield. Maybe your chaos is your comfort. This is not love. This is theater. And you are both improvising from scripts written long before you met. But the wound does not care. It only wants to stay open. It does not want closure. It wants repetition. And it will dress it as romance, as fate, as I can't stop thinking about her. It will make the dysfunction feel divine. And it will keep feeding until you see it. Until you stop asking the wound to choose your partners. Until you realize that being chosen by the same ache is not healing, it is hell. There is a part of you that already knows, the part that tightens when she flinches away, the part that goes quiet when she talks about her ex, The part that whispers, "You deserve more," and is immediately silenced. That part is not weak, it is awake. But you drown it in hope. You cover it with fantasy. You say, "She just needs time." But time does not build love in a place where presence never lived. You tell yourself you can win her over, that if you're patient enough, kind enough, passionate enough, she will stay. But the boy in you is still at the door, holding out his drawing to a mother who is already walking away. You are not her son. She is not your mother. But your soul does not know the difference. It only knows the ache. And it has mistaken reenactment for redemption. There is no redemption in being wounded the same way twice. There is only recognition. Recognition that the ache is not a guide, it is a ghost. That love is not supposed to feel like hunger. That being seen should not feel like being devoured. That comfort should not be confused with survival. And that maybe, just maybe, the love you've always wanted cannot come from the people who echo your wound, because they do not recognize your soul, only your shape. So you sit with the ache, alone, without her, and you ask yourself if love did arrive soft, honest, terrifyingly intimate, would I even know how to stay? Or would I run back to the wound, back to the mirror, back to the silence that raised me? You do not fall for her, you fall for the anima she performs. And the truth is, she sees your soul only when you bleed. She says she loves you, but you know she doesn't know what she's loving. Not really. She loves the mask you crafted, the one that speaks in confident tones and doesn't flinch when she withdraws. The one that hides the ache behind humor, turns despair into allure, transforms rejection into mystique. She loves your performance, but she's never met the man beneath it. And deep down, neither have you. You became the mask because the boy you once were was too raw to survive. You made him vanish beneath layers of charm, control, cool detachment. You wore masculinity like armor. You forged strength out of silence. You learned to become what they wanted before they could want something you weren't. That's the first illusion that you had to earn her gaze. The second that she ever saw you, she saw the flame, not the fire. She saw the outline, not the wound. But you didn't mind, not at first. You mistook her admiration for intimacy. You thought her desire meant recognition. When she stared at you with those hungry eyes, it felt like salvation. Finally, someone sees me. Finally, someone stays. But it wasn't you she saw, it was the character you summoned to seduce her. You fed her the exact shadows she craved. Mystery, distance, a touch of danger. You didn't give her your truth. You gave her her own fantasy. And so you both fell in love with an illusion. But illusions don't bleed. So when you finally cracked, when your mask slipped, maybe for just a moment, maybe in a moment of weakness, of softness, of grief, she looked at you like a stranger. And in that look, everything shattered. Because it wasn't just her disappointment you felt. It was the memory of every gaze that turned cold when you showed your truth. It was the mother who flinched, the father who disappeared, the friends who laughed when you cried. It was the ancient message, be the mask, or be alone. She didn't mean to hurt you. She was just responding to the story you sold her. You sold her strength, not sorrow. You sold her the controlled fire, not the wildfire. And when she touched the truth, it burned. Not because you were too much, but because she didn't come for truth. She came for the myth. She came for the dream of the untouchable man who wanted only her. And when she realized that man didn't exist, she backed away, not because you failed, but because the spell broke. You learned then, love is not just about being seen. It's about being seen and not scorned. And you had never known that kind of love. So you put the mask back on, tighter this time, thicker, colder. You vowed never to bleed in front of anyone again. You thought if my truth makes them leave, then I will become what they cannot abandon. You thought that safety lies in performance, but safety is not intimacy, and performance is not love. So now you find yourself with women who fall for the character. Women who say you're so calm, so powerful, so put together. And part of you smiles because you worked hard to become that. But another part, a quieter, lonelier part, dies a little more each time, because you know what they're falling for isn't real. And you know that if you ever let them into the place where the mask ends, they'll run, or worse, they'll look bored. Because the truth of you is not shiny, it is not seductive, it is not always composed. The truth of you is trembling hands and sleepless nights. The truth of you is grief without a grave, a hunger that cannot be named. The truth of you is the ache that no performance can erase. And somewhere, deep down, you know if someone were to ever touch that place, really touch it, the illusion would collapse. And maybe you would too. You want love, but you want it without risk. You want to be chosen, but only when you're armored. You want to be adored, but only when you're winning. This is the mask's game. It turns vulnerability into threat. It turns surrender into shame. It convinces you that to be loved, you must be untouchable. But the mask doesn't just hide you from her. It hides you from yourself. That is why you feel so lonely, even in bed with her. That is why, after she falls asleep beside you, you stare at the ceiling and wonder why it still feels like no one is there. That is why, in the moments after she says, "I love you," you feel a strange, hollow ache instead of warmth, because you know she loves the performance, not the one beneath it. And so every "I love you" becomes a lie you agree to. You tell yourself you can change, that next time you'll be more honest, that with the next woman you'll let her in, but you don't. Because the moment you feel her gaze drift, the moment her attention flickers, the old terror returns. The mask tightens. You revert, you entertain, you conquer, you seduce, anything but reveal. Because you've mistaken love for approval, and approval is conditional. But love, real love, cannot survive behind the mask. It needs the bleeding truth, the cracked voice, the trembling confession. It needs the version of you that doesn't know what to say. It needs the part of you that is tired of pretending. But to show that, to let her see the man behind the mask, that would mean risking everything. And part of you would rather die adored than live revealed. This is the paradox. You long to be loved for who you are, but you only show who you are when you believe no one is watching. You cry in silence. You scream in your head. You suffer beautifully, alone. Because to let her see that would be to admit that you are not the character, that you are not invincible, that you are not the mask. And yet, the longer you wear it, the more you become it, until even you forget the face beneath, until the role consumes the actor, until love itself feels foreign, too soft, too slow, too demanding, and you push it away. You say she was boring, you say she was too emotional, but really, she saw too much. She stared too long. She reached for the real you, and the mask panicked. So you return to the cold ones, the distant ones, the ones who never ask about your dreams, the ones who fall for your silence, the ones who never notice your tremble, because they're safe. They'll never touch the wound, but they'll never hold the soul either. And so the loop continues. The anima returns, dressed in new skin, speaking new lines, but always playing the same role, the one who seems close enough to love you, but never close enough to see you. And you pretend again, you perform again, you seduce, you conquer, you smile. But at night, the ache returns, the silence deepens, and the mirror, once more, reflects a stranger. And still, you ask, why doesn't she love me? But the better question is, would you even let her if she did? You stand before the mirror, not as a man, but as a mask worn thin. Behind you, shadows move past lovers, past lives, past selves, each whispering a name you once were, none of which you remember. You touch your face, it doesn't feel like yours. Somewhere, far behind your ribs, a question hums. If I remove the mask, will there be anything left? The mirror does not answer, but it does not look away.